Have these questions ever crossed your mind? What would it take to build a powerful and enduring brand? How can I invest boldly to maximize my time and financial return? What strategies will allow me to create something truly innovative and impactful, ensuring that my work leaves a lasting legacy? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am your host, Jody Grunwald, and my guest in this two-part episode is Bart Henderson, founder of Henderson Promos, entrepreneur, and investor. He also is the founder of the Agora Guild, where men come together to embark on a transformative journey of growth and breakthroughs, and he will be answering all of those questions. This episode dives into the power of pursuing your passion, making bold career shifts, and embracing opportunities with unwavering confidence. Our guest has a remarkable ability to turn ventures into success, proving that resilience, vision, and taking strategic risks can lead to extraordinary success. Please take a moment to subscribe to the Today's the Day Changemakers YouTube channel or stream on all platforms. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Today is the Day Live It. Learn more about our upcoming Changemaker events that are mostly virtual at todayisthedayliveit.com. Have a great week, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today's the Day Changemakers Podcast. I am Jody Grunwald, and as I say every single episode, I have the honor of interviewing the changemakers, the inspirers, and those who are disrupting the status quo in the best way possible around the globe. And today I have Bart Henderson with me. Hi, Bart.
Jody, it's so nice to be with you, as always.
It's so wonderful to be with you, and I'm excited about this because I interviewed Christina, your wife, in my first season.
Oh, that's great.
I know. It was such a great, so wonderful. So now I get to, it's been too long. We should have had you on before, but we have you on now.
I'm very happy to be here. And Christina was actually, she said it to me just last week. She said, "Oh, I remember I did that. We had so much fun together." So she had a lot of fun when she came on.
Oh, yeah. We'll have fun too. We're going to have some fun too. But I'm going to read a little bit from your bio. Now, mind you, those who are listening, I will not be reading all of Bart's bio because we talked about this before. This could take up a big portion of the episode because Bart has done a tremendous amount of things, but we'll get started here. Barton Henderson is a passionate entrepreneur who focuses on community impact and company branding. In 2013, Bart founded Henderson Promos, a full-scale promotional products firm. In 2022, Henderson Promos was ranked number 10 on Inc. magazine's Northeast list of the fastest growing privately owned companies in the U.S. Bart was recognized as a business and community leader in New Jersey's top 40 under 40 list in 2022 by NJ Biz. He is an investor in projects that span many industries. He owns a property investment company and has launched and successfully exited a national PPE distribution company. He is an owner of the Campbird Gold and Rare Earth Metals Mine. I'm learning so much about you, Bart, right now. And the Revenue Silver Mine in Colorado. He's an investor in the Grippery, a golf regripping company, Art of Pour, a ready-to-drink craft cocktail company, and Grassy USA, which is revolutionizing the landscaping industry with robotic landscaping. And as an attorney, he heads the national law firm development team at Themis. Am I saying that right? Themis Bar Review, where he lectures at the world's largest AM 100 law firms. He serves as the president of the Christian Brothers Academy Alumni Board and serves on the board of the Monmouth Ocean Development Council, which I am also the CEO of. So I'm so excited. Right. And Bart, his favorite things include spending time with his wife, Christina, sons, Brody and Calloway, and dogs, Gatsby and Kona. He launched a new men's group called Agora Guild, where he went from having just 6 men members to now 40 in the last 6 months. And I know we're going to talk about that because I love what you're doing. I love all that you've done to help, and as we talked about with this group, you had said that it's all different things that you talk about that help them to grow and thrive in whatever they need to thrive in. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's been really fun to be a part of a group that's not a business group per se. So in Agora Guild, it's men coming together who want to be better in tons of aspects of life, right? So is business one of those aspects? Yes, but the first thing we do is we tell people Agora Guild is not a business group. Now, are people in the group doing business together? Of course, right? We're all doing lots of business together, but we come to focus on being better men, being better fathers, being better husbands, being healthier. So we focus on all sorts of things like health, wealth, finance, mentality, things of that nature. It's really just about elevate your circle. I really believe, as Jim Rohn said, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. And so it's any guys out there who want to be better, who want to be pushed, who want to be challenged, then Agora Guild's a really cool group. It's really opened up a lot of opportunities. And we've had guys in the group lose 70 pounds, lose 40 pounds. We've had guys who are going through tough times in their relationships, repair their relationships through talking through this with everybody. We've had people triple their businesses because of accountability and motivation. So it's really having impact, which has been my absolute most favorite project that I've ever worked on.
I love that. I could see that in your face. I want to ask you some questions about Agora Guild because I love this whole premise of what you've done. So how often does the group meet?
So it's really cool. Like you said, I am really passionate about it. It's been so much fun. So we meet every Thursday from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Now that is like our weekly standard meeting that we do no matter what. On top of that, we have a totally optional meeting every Monday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's called the Power Hour. Now, anyone who's not in Agora Guild can join this too. It's actually open to the public. So from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., the Power Hour is essentially a time where you say, I'm going to do something that's going to push my life forward, right? I mean, we're all answering emails every day. We're writing POs and invoices and doing the business things we need to do. But how much are you focusing on your strategic long-term plan? How much are you making the sales calls you need to make? So people in that Power Hour set that aside and they say, I'm going to work on the hard thing I need to do. First thing in the morning, first thing in the week, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. So we do that too. And then we also have in-person meetings. In fact, yesterday, we all met and played paintball. You know, like it was total blast. I've got a couple marks here and there. But 2 weeks ago, we all raced exotic cars. We've gotten some Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Porsches and did that. We're going rock climbing. We do business breakfast. We do all sorts of things. So the regular meetings are once every Thursday, but then we do things that bring people together. We did a family farm day 2 weeks ago where all you bring your kids and your wives and everybody, and we all have fun at the farm. So it's really about changing the group, right? We all have friends from high school or college who are going to be our best friends forever. But the thing that men often say is, those guys are my best friends, but they're not pushing me. And so I need to be surrounded with people who are pushing me. This is the kind of group where you'll walk in the room and someone will say, like, how are things going? And you'll say, good. And it's like, okay, well, how are you doing on your goal for our 42 sales this month? Oh, I'm doing okay. Well, why just okay? Why aren't you doing great? What do we have to do to push you to that next level? So there's a lot of accountability here.
I love this so much. I can't begin to tell you because accountability partners, we have a lot of people. There's two, I feel like there's probably more than two, but I'm just going to come up with two kinds of friends, right?
Yeah.
So you have the friends who give you the sympathy, the empathy, you poor thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have the friends who are there to celebrate your wins, but the middle part, the part where there's the struggle, right? They usually typically go, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." Instead of, "Wait a minute. Let's talk about how we turn that whole thing around."
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And what's also good is sometimes it's better that you're not best friends right away, right? So because you can be a little bit more open and share.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you told me before the podcast episode here, but I just wanted you to share with those who are listening why you chose the name you chose for this group.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll jump into that in 1 second. I'll just want to touch on one thing you said, which is about those kind of accountability friends. I find when people come in the group at first, they're very uncomfortable with that kind of an accountability, right? And so we train each other to say, no, you gotta really hold people accountable. You've got to challenge them. You've got to ask them why. You can't let people get out because it's almost in our DNA. We want to make people feel comfortable. right? And so in Agora Guild, we have accountability buddies, is what we call them. And so, so accountability buddies, we train each other on how to challenge and how not to allow people to wiggle out with excuses and things like that. So that is a really good, interesting friend to find. So
I just
as
want
far
to add to that. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I know I'm interrupting you. I'm so sorry, but I
no,
want
not
to
at
stick
all.
on that for a second. But I want everybody to also hear. I'm sure it's done with the most amount of love and support, as opposed to, why didn't you do it? And you said you were gonna, you know what I mean? So I just want to make sure, because if somebody ever says, "Oh, I want to create a group similar to this" or something like that, we're not beating up on each other here. This is out of
That's right.
support and love and help, right?
That's right. So the way we approach it is Ray Dalio, one of the most famous business minds of our time, wrote a book called Principles. And in his book, he oftentimes times talks about the concept of radical transparency, right? And so he is always being totally transparent and honest with people. And he says, hey, I'm going to be totally honest with you, and I expect total honesty back. So radical transparency. He essentially wants you to be brutally honest with people. And if you're brutally honest, it's always going to be in a positive manner, in the fact that no one's attacking each other. No one's doing things like that. It's just, hey, you told me you didn't get your sales calls done yesterday. Well, did you watch TV last night? Because you could have done your sales calls during that TV. And so it's just kind of setting the tone. So we say to each other, hey, we're going to be open and honest with each other the whole time. And that's how we're going to approach everything. And when you set that tone, then you're able to move forward without being mean, without pushing, without being hard on each other. It's just, hey, we expect 100% honesty, and we can move forward like that, you know?
Love it.
Yeah.
So now I'm
So
sorry.
Agora,
I know I
Agora
interrupted you.
Guild, yeah, the
Yeah.
name. So the Agora is traditionally the Greek market where the most famous minds came together. So Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, and they would share the most kind of thought-provoking things of their time. And that's kind of what we see ourselves doing in Agora Guild. So in a weekly meeting, we come in, we have 5 minutes of kind of updates. Then there's 10 minutes to set the tone, or a guest speaker. And we might say, hey guys, today we're going to talk about alcohol. So what's your relationship like with alcohol? Do you drink it too often? Do you use it? Do you drink alcohol just once a month? Or do you never drink alcohol? Are you in a good relationship? Is it something you need to drink in order to be social? So like, these are the kind of conversations we have. And then we share them like they did in the Agora. Let's all talk about that now. Let's break into mini groups of 5 to 7 guys, and let's talk about our relationships with alcohol. Could be that we're talking about a relationship with sugar. Could be that week we're talking about how to be a better spouse. It's all sorts of things, but we're sharing and kind of debating thoughts. And you get some real different concepts in a group of 5 to 7 guys. Mm-hmm. Some of them might be like, no, I really want to enjoy life and I want to be able to have alcohol, and other guys would be like, well, I just want to be as healthy as possible, so I don't want to have it at all. And then you debate and you talk about it, and it's a really interesting way. So it's like the Agora back in Greece, where we're kind of debating, ideas of our time, I suppose.
It's wonderful, and I love the name, and I love where you got it from. I think it's so perfect. How do anybody's listening, how can they find you to ask you questions about this?
Cool. So agoraguild.com, that's AgoraGuild.com. You go there, can tell you a little bit about it. And there's an apply button, so we make everybody apply. The key is anyone who joins Agora Guild must be open-minded. We don't allow people into the group who are not open-minded. So even though we don't talk about politics much, just to give you a great example, if someone's a very, very right-wing conservative and someone's a very, very left-wing Democrat in Agora Guild, that's fine. They get along because they talk and they can hear each other's views and talk through it. But if you're one of those things and you're not open-minded to stop, listen, and hear other people, then it's not the group for you. So that's the real key. We'll be talking about everything from politics to maybe sex life to health to long-term financial planning. I mean, personal things sometimes. And so if you can't be open and hear ideas from other sides, then people will not be a good fit for Agora Guild. But people who are open to be pushed, to be challenged, agoraguild.com is a great place to go, just to start and understand a little bit about us. Also, our Instagram is at Agora Guild, and you can see we post motivational things every single day there. So you can even follow us, even if you're not joining, just to see motivational sayings and quotes and things like that.
That's great. We'll make sure we put that up with the podcast notes and stuff like that. So that's awesome. The funny thing is we did not, this was not even planned for me to even talk to you about until and right before, and we could go on and on about it. It's great. It's interesting, and some people may hate me for saying this, but it is interesting that as time has gone on, there's a lot of women's groups.
Yeah.
But I want to be fair to the men out there in saying there really aren't a lot of men's groups specifically like this, right? So that's the difference to me when I hear what you're doing, and in general, because sometimes men will say, well, there's all these women's groups and there's no men's groups, and then, women get mad about it because they're like, what do you mean?
Every group's a men's group. Yeah, right.
Exactly. That's exactly what they say. So I'm being fair to all genders. And so just saying that I think it's wonderful, because I also hear the opportunity to talk about compassion and empathy and not being afraid of that, as unfortunately men are sometimes brought up, depends on generations and the way your families are, to not have and share feelings and thoughts and all of those kinds of things. And there's a block there. And I love that it sounds like this group is very open to that. Like you said, marital issues and other things have been discussed that are very deep.
That's right. We have guys join the group. This is something I often hear. We have men who join the group, and within 1 month, they'll come back to me, and this happens all the time, and they'll say, I don't know what it is about this group, but I share things in this group that I haven't told my best friends for 25 years. Like, we are opening up, being vulnerable, and working on getting better, just because we set the tone, we set the space so that people can share things like that. So you're right on the money. It is a group where we do get into deep things in order to share, in order to grow, in order to get better. And you have to be open-minded for that,
Absolutely. So let's get into a little bit of why I wanted to have you on here beyond this, because this could be its own topic by itself.
Yes. Yep.
There's so much packed in here in asking you questions, because entrepreneurship just runs through your veins, obviously.
Yep.
When did you realize, as a young person, like you're a young person now, I'm talking like
thank you
like did you have a lemonade stand type of young person, young person, that I really just want to work for myself? Now, you went to school for law, so I know people, when they read the bio that I'll put up, they'll be like, law and Henderson Promos and Grassi and all of this. So if you could give us kind of your background through all of that.
So I think it was probably just encouraged from my parents, because literally since I can remember, if you look back, I was doing entrepreneurial things. The first thing that I can kind of remember was, I don't know, probably when I was 4 years old or 3 years old or whatever the heck the age, probably 4 or 5, something like that. I would take copies of my hand in my mom's office, and I'd print copies of my hand, and I would try selling them for 25 cents to people in her office.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'd make copies and I would sell them. And then I came up to my mom. She's like, wait, what? People are buying these? Like, no, oh my God. Like, don't be going around the office doing this. That, and then, landscaping. One of the earliest things I did was I would go to, there was a thing called Franklin's Five and Dime when I was a kid. You might remember Franklin's as well. There were like 5 and dimes around here, where I would go and buy candy bars for 25 cents. And then I would go and sell them for 75 cents to $1, like door to door, almost, essentially, on Main Street and all that kind of stuff. At like 8 years old and things like that. So I was doing it ever since I was really young, I guess. So always just had that entrepreneurial spirit. As far as law school and things of that nature, I was at a point where I was working in the U.S. Senate. I was interning, and I had the opportunity to continue to work either in the Senate or Congress or things of that nature, or to go back to law school. And I was at a kind of precipice where I said, all right, I can go back to school for another 3 years, but that's going to kind of just put my life back more as far as I won't be earning money in that time. And so I said, all right, I will go to law school, but I'm only going to do it if I promise myself one thing, and that's that I will be making money and building something while I'm in law school. I'm not going to just go spend $200,000 and then start my life in 3 years, essentially. So I said, what can I do? What can I do? I started racking my brain. I said, well, I can print t-shirts. I know about printing t-shirts. I've done it in the past. I've been involved. So I started printing t-shirts at night while I was in law school. Literally, you can ask Christina, my wife. Everybody else is kind of studying or going to bed at 11 o'clock at night. I was printing t-shirts in my kitchen. And so by the time I ended up graduating law school, we had contracts. We were making great money printing t-shirts and doing things like that. So we went from like 5 t-shirt options to maybe 25, by the time I was out of law school or ending near law school. And since then, we've grown it to about 800,000 products. But it was really just printing t-shirts that we said, hey, this is a way out. And so many people, a way out of having to take a job with somebody else, essentially. And so many people said along the way, you're crazy. I mean, people were like, you're an attorney, you're a lawyer, go do that. I mean, family members literally said to me, you're making a huge mistake. I don't know why you're doing promos. I don't know why you're doing this. Family members, other lawyers, people I know, constantly like, what are you doing? And so the thing that's interesting that I've read in a lot of bios is everyone thinks you're crazy until you're not. And so that's something I really like. I mean, Elon Musk, like him or not, he's a great example of everyone thinks, oh, you're crazy. You can't build an electric car until, oh, it's now like the biggest market cap in the industry. And so everyone thinks you're crazy until you're not. And so finally, we hit a point where we're the fastest growing company, on the East Coast, privately owned and this and that. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that's great. Great that you chose that. But there were so many times along the way where so many people were like, you can't do this. You shouldn't do this. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to have that North Compass. That's like, look, I respect everybody, but I don't want to do the same thing everybody else has done. And you've got to listen to your intuition. And sometimes it's wrong. I mean, I've had many failures. I mean, tons and tons of failures in business. But it's like, you miss every shot you don't take. For every 10 shots I've taken, maybe I've made 5. The 5 I missed don't matter. They don't matter at all. And I don't care about those 5 shots. In fact, they've given me lessons, lots of lessons. I've had some of the best lessons in the past 3 years of failed businesses, which I'm happy to talk about, that made all the successful businesses I have today. So that's a long, long answer of my past in entrepreneurship, but you're right. Everything from lemonade stands to handprints, to candy bars. It's been fun. I've failed a lot, but that's what's taught me my best lessons for sure.
I always say this when people talk about the word failing or failure. Brene Brown, who I love,
Great.
she calls it falling, because she says what happens is and you have toddlers, so they fall and they get right back up again, right?
Yep.
And so when we fail, it sounds so horrible, but falling, you just get right back up again. So you fell a few times and you got back up and did some new and exciting things. And as you talked about, the lessons learned. So could you give us one of those lessons that you took away from some of those things that happened, you mentioned in the last 3 years that didn't work out?
Absolutely. So one thing that I'm trying to do in my family as I get older, I mean, my boys are only a little over 1 and a little over 2 right now. So we're not doing this yet, but I plan every night at the dinner table to ask my kids like, hey, what's one thing you failed at today? And I want to know that. So in our house, we're really going to coach them to be like, failure is a positive thing, because you failed at that today, you learn from it and you move forward. So at every dinner, my wife and I plan on saying to the kids, all right, everybody, what's one thing you failed at today? just to kind of change that notion, exactly like you said, around the idea of failure. Because if you change that idea of failure can be a positive thing, then it's great. I think that there is true failure, and true failure in my eyes, there's like a couple different types of failure. True failure is if you failed at something because you weren't prepared. Like that does happen, right? So
Yeah.
maybe you had a big presentation and you only put in 5 hours to start to prepare for it when you really should have put in like 40 and you failed at your presentation. Well, that's something you got to go back and you got to look, I messed up here. I didn't put in the time. That's real failure. But like failing forward is something I always think about. Like if you put in the time, you put in the preparation, you did everything, but you just didn't know, you just didn't have that knowledge, and that propels you forward, then that's good failure. So I mean, that's something I really like to talk about. So the best lesson, to your last question, that I've learned in the last really year actually, and I now take it forward in every investment I do, every business I do. I think about it is I try to avoid what I'm now calling headache businesses. So for so many years of my life, when I had good business opportunities, I would tackle them. If it looked like it was something that was good, that you could make money at, and there was a good team, that's the most critical thing to me, a good team or a good leader, I would invest in it, right? So what I learned as a result of that is just because you can make money from something doesn't mean it's a good business, at least for me personally. And what I mean by that is you can deal with 10 headaches a day to make money, but I don't want to make money in those businesses. I want to deal in a business where I'm making less money with less headaches. And so that's really what I look for now in business and in life is I say, well, how many headaches will this business bring versus how easy will this business be? And so in the last couple of years, there's multiple, in the last year or two, businesses we didn't invest in because I said, oh, you know what? That's a headache business. Like ultimately, I will have to deal with so much customer service. And so to give you a real tangible example, if you look at our landscaping business, right? Direct to consumer. When you go directly to the consumers, generally speaking, B2C, in my opinion, rather than B2B, you're going to have more headaches if you're going B2C than you do B2B because you have more people to talk to, more people to deal with. And so by virtue of the fact that there's more clients, you have more headaches. So in landscaping, for instance, I'll give you an example. I think it was it last year we had like a 9% inflation rate, right? And in our landscaping company, we had to raise our rates. We raised them 3%. And so we sent everybody an email and we said, hey, we're raising our rates 3%. Inflation's 9%. Gasoline inflation at this point is 7%, like whatever the numbers were, right? And of the 48 clients we had, or whatever the number was, we got emails or calls back from half of them. And they said, like, well, why are the rates going up 3%? This is, a lot. We don't want to pay the extra $1.85 per week, whatever the thing is. And so that was such a like immediate realization for me, like, oh, this is a headache business. Like this has multiple clients that are very price sensitive that you have to deal with at any given time. Now, that doesn't mean you can't make tons of money. I know very successful landscapers who are making $5 million a year that have phenomenal landscaping businesses. They have great businesses. But all of them that I know and talk to will generally say the same thing, like, oh, you're always dealing with workers calling out or clients who need this or people like they're working through headaches all the time. They call themselves like firefighters. They're constantly putting out fires here and there. And again, it's great if you're okay with that kind of headache, essentially. So again, you can make great money. It's good. Whereas I have other businesses where People are paying, well, I'll give you an example. When we first started Agora Guilds, people were only paying $50 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like $50 a month. It was nothing. When we raised our prices from $50 a month to $150 a month, right? Big jump right there.
Huge. Yeah.
No one cared. No one said a thing. They go, oh, yeah, of course, it's worth it. There's value. We love
That.
it. We love you, right? And
Yes.
so right there, I said, okay, this is not a headache business. This is a business I love doing that gives me energy rather than takes it. And so that's been my North Star in life for the past 2 years is anything I go to do. And my wife and I talk about this all the time is I ask one simple question now, which has given me so much back. Is it going to give me energy or is it going to take energy away from me? Whether you're going to go to the park with your kids or whether you're going to go to an event on a Saturday night, we always say like, is this going to give us energy or is it going to take energy away from us? And if you ask that question, then it's like, oh, okay, maybe I should or shouldn't do this. Now, don't get me wrong. There's business, there's things you have to give energy, obviously. But that's a long answer to the best lesson I've learned in the last year is do I want to deal with headaches or not? And do I want to give energy or take it, essentially?
So before we get to Henderson Promos, because I do want to talk about some of the exciting new things that are happening and how it grew over time. One of the things that, as somebody's listening, and I'm thinking from a listener's point of view right now, is that, wow, he's got a lot of energy and he's really motivated and ambitious to start things. And he doesn't allow fear to hold him back. Right. And this is what somebody may be thinking, not saying that's how it is for you. And I've got this fabulous idea that I have wanted to launch for a very long time. And I've allowed fear. This guy started, I don't know, X amount of businesses. How did Bart not allow fear to get in his way? Because I've got this idea that I've been feeling bad about myself because I haven't launched it yet. What do you tell that person?
Oh, Jody, I love that. That's good. And you know the answer to this too, because you've got so many successful things going on.
Thanks.
I give two pieces of advice on this. The first is I'll talk about spotlight syndrome. So there's this thing in our society nowadays. It's kind of a new psychological phenomenon, which is called spotlight syndrome. And it's because of social media and because of the rise of connection in the world, email and things of that nature. We all think we're more important than we are, right? And so we all think that other people are watching us. Other people are cheering for us or they're cheering for our failure. Like we have these thoughts in our head. And because you're constantly out there on social media, you have this thought that like, oh my God, if I fail, everyone's going to know about it, right? Like everyone's going to see. If I go out there and I say, yes, I go out there and I say, I'm going to start a car washing business. But if it fails, everyone's going to know about it and everyone's going to think I'm a failure. Like, oh man, that's tough. That's really spotlight syndrome because the truth is very few people care about what you're doing. Everyone's busy and everyone cares about their own lives, generally speaking. And so there's really only a core group of people, your family, your best friends, who really care per se about what you're doing. There's not a huge spotlight on you, like, right? Unless you're some kind of super celebrity who's really getting critiqued all along the way. Most of the time, people don't actually care. If your business fails, it's not going to be a big deal. Like nothing's going to happen at all. No one's going to come after you. No one's going to say, you failed. That's terrible. And if someone does, that's the wrong person in your life, right? So the first thing is get rid of the spotlight syndrome thing. Most people don't care. You miss, every shot you don't take, which is one of the things we say. And then the piece of advice that I really give to entrepreneurs is rather than worrying about failure, just make $1, right? And so this is my favorite tip for anyone who's scared of starting a company, who's thinking about starting a company. So there's this phase in starting a company that's really fun and really romantic and really sexy. It's like, I'm going to go get my website and I'm going to spend time designing the website, designing the logo. I've got to get an LLC. I've got to file the paperwork. I've got to, get a t-shirt with my name on it. I've got like, it's real fun, right? It's like an exciting time. And so I find a lot of people use their energy in starting their business on those kinds of things. And so what happens is a lot of times people spend their energy on that. It turns out the business just wasn't a good idea. And I hate saying that, but like it's true. Some businesses just aren't a good idea, or you're not putting in enough time to the right market to get it out there. And so what I like to tell people is don't do a website. Now, I'm not giving anybody legal advice here, because as a lawyer, I would say you want some kind of entity, you want an LLC, you want whatever. That's
Right.
something you talk to your lawyer about. But generally speaking, I would say try to just go make $1 without doing all that first. Like $1. And I really do mean $1. I don't mean $100. I don't mean $1,000. I don't mean $10,000. Make $1. So if we're talking about a car washing business, right? Go and see if you can convince your best friend's mom to let you wash their car. Go and see if you can make $1 from X amount of people. If that's starting to work, then now start to worry about the social media and the website and things like that. And now there's less of a fear of failure because you're not even putting it out there. It's not something that's a big production yet. And so if you just make $1 first, or you'll say, oh my gosh, I thought this was such a good idea. Nobody wants to sign up for this. This is not a good idea. I don't need the website. I don't need anything. Let me actually focus on another idea. So make $1 is really a big part of that. And then I would love to jump into sales and people, failing or succeeding in sales, if that's something that also goes along with this. But it's really make $1 and get rid of spotlight syndrome,
Well, let's go back to sales in a minute, but I definitely want to, because people are very connected to their thought process, their idea, what they're excited about. And then when it fails, for some, they go into, I don't want to say depression. In some cases, it could be,
Totally.
right? Especially some who are trying, and you and I both probably know a lot of people who are doing side hustles, including me, right? We all have, and you're running multiple businesses yourself. You can call your main one, and the other's the side hustles. It all depends, right? So when that thing that you look forward to after your regular job that you might love, might not love, and the other thing falls down, and you've said you've had 3 businesses that kind of just didn't work out. What is your way to work through that kind of connection? You have to kind of cut the cord from those things, and it's hard, right? Mentally it can be hard because it didn't work out.
Yep.
Advice on that, because you've had the success, but you've also had the falling failure, whichever way you want to look at it.
Yeah, I think the first thing is do the review. Like sit down and go, why didn't this work? Right? Because if you don't figure out why that didn't work and then take that forward, then whatever the next thing you do, if you do another thing, also might not work. So reviewing, saying like, was it the idea? Was it the way I went about it? Could I have done more? Could I have approached it in a different way? Like that's the first thing. What can I learn as a lesson from this? Did I have the right partner? Did I like maybe I shouldn't have been selling directly to consumers. Maybe I should have been selling to marketing companies who would then market my thing for me. Just kind of doing that equation of what went right, what went wrong is the first thing. The second thing is that depression is real for a lot of people, even on a daily basis. Like people you run into, people might say like, how are things? Good, great, whatever. But then they're thinking like, I got to do this. I didn't do that, whatever. There's 100 things running through people's minds at all times. And so for that, I think it's important to recognize that life, business, friendships, relationships go through cycles. And so it's important to recognize that you're in that depressive cycle, right? So it's like, oh, okay, right now I'm not feeling too good, and I'm not feeling too good because of this business. But you know what? 3 months ago, I just celebrated 2 years of being physically fit for 2 years in a row, and I felt great about myself. And so, like, life goes in cycles. It goes up and down. Relationships, businesses, everything. And so I find that if you really take stock and you go, where am I in that cycle? And you say, oh, I'm just in a down cycle. I need to change my state, do something to get myself back in an upswing cycle, then that's critical. It's like, I'm in a down cycle right now. I know it. I'm in a down cycle because my business failed. What do I need to do? What do I need to change? What do I need to pivot now that I learned the mistakes I did to start going back into that up cycle? And so just thinking about that, relationships, you could be really happy and really great, or there can be a time where it's like, oh, we're in a rut right now. We haven't been able to go out on date night. We haven't, whatever it might be. Everything goes in cycles. Your business world, your mentality, health in some ways. People will say, I'm not eating as great as I was, 2 months ago. So recognizing the cycle is so key to me, and knowing I'm in this down place now. How do I change my state to get back into an up cycle, essentially?
So it really is about being true to yourself, listening to yourself, right? Really being honest with yourself. Yeah. Without judgment. We are our worst judgers, right? We are the ones who are the most critical on ourselves. Yeah. But also, you mentioned from the beginning, surrounding you are, what is it? What was
5 people you surround yourself with? Yeah.
Right.
The average
of the 5 people. So if those 5 people are the right 5 people, and I always say those are your people, right? Those are the ones that when you're in that downward, it's good to go to them and see it for the support that you may need, right? So there's ways internally and then externally. But I love what you said, and I think it's so important. We have wins along the way. They may be a year ago, they may be 6 months ago. Don't forget about them, right? When you're down, because they're coming back. And I love that. It is very secular. It is. Yeah, I think it's right. It is very secular. So let's talk about Henderson Promos. You started out in your apartment, I think you said, right? You were making t-shirts and going to law school. And then you then it just kind of came about that Henderson Promos grew. So you said goodbye to law. So just because I want to close that gap there for those who are kind of listening, going, really? Just like your family and others were like, really? You closed that? You said no. Talk a little bit about what it was to close the door on something that big. You said, I'm sure it was a huge undertaking financially too. I mean, it costs a lot of money to go to law school and then turn around and say, I'm not doing that. Right. So if you could talk just a little bit about what that was like for you emotionally to do, and then how you went about it.
Yes. So, I haven't honestly closed the door on law totally, I guess is the thing. And so I'm a big believer in being able to do more than one thing. And so, like you said, I run the national law firm team at Themis. And so I do that as an attorney. I'm licensed in New York and New Jersey. And so I haven't totally closed the door because I do like that atmosphere. I do like hitting it. What I didn't like I don't like traditional practice of law where you are glued to reading contracts for 80 hours a week, right? Or 60 hours a week, or whatever it might be for most attorneys. So I just said, I know that's not for me, right? But I know that there's something that could fit in the law for me. And that's where Themis is a really good company, and where they gave me that really good opportunity. So at first, it wasn't really a decision. I just knew off the bat that I was more business minded. I was a JD MBA, so I was always in law school. I was also getting my MBA, and I always just knew I was more business focused than I was law focused. And so other people were doing legal internships, every summer. I was like printing t-shirts, right? And so I knew I was not going to go into traditional practice. Now, the reason people go into traditional practice is you make a lot of money. You go into an AmLaw 100 nowadays, you start off at $225,000 a year. By year 5, you're making well over $300,000 a year. By year 10, you're making well over $400,000 or $500,000 a year. And so that's why people go into big law. I have such a different way that I look at value in life. And what's most critical and important to me is freedom. And so I put a real premium on having the freedom to do what I want to do in life, having the freedom to spend time with my kids, having the freedom to go and travel and spend time with like-minded men in Agora Guild. And so other people trade 80 hours a week for $500,000 a year. I would rather, because what does that $500,000 a year do? It gives you money to be able to do things, right? Whatever those things are. Maybe you're buying cars, maybe you're buying a nicer house, whatever it might be. And so one of my good friends who's at a top AM 100 law firm goes, it's like a pie eating contest where the prize is more pie. And so it's essentially you make more money, but for what? You're still working 60 or 80 hours a week. And so to me, I might work 60 or 80 hours a week or whatever it might be, but it's doing things I like. I love. I absolutely love working with guys in Agora Guild. And so to me, it's just a different value equation. It's a real different value equation. Like my idea is money without happiness is nothing. Happiness without money could be everything. And so if you're already there and you're able to practice that on a daily basis, that's great. Now, everybody said, oh, great for you to say, you don't have to worry, things are great. And that's true. There is a level at which having money and not worrying is amazing. I mean, that's really critical for most people. I've heard a lot of people say, just getting to that point where when they ask you if you want guacamole with your burrito for an extra $2 and you don't have to worry about it, then you're good, right? And
I love that.
There's a lot of, there is a point, we know from statistically speaking, that after you hit a certain number of financial security, I don't know what the actual number is. I want to say it's around 180 grand or 280 grand a year or something like that, that happiness does not go up. Happiness planes as far as happiness to money trade-off. And so once you get that money, the question is, are you really happy? Like, are you already having those happy moments? And so for me, it was never a question of if I'm going to read contract for 40, 60, 80 hours a week. I knew that would not make me happy, unequivocally. And so when you know your North Star, back to that, does it give you energy or take energy? Then you're able to make decisions without ever feeling bad. You're able to go, oh no, I know I'm walking the path. I know I'm going the right way. So giving up traditional practice of the law, it was a breeze for me because I knew it wouldn't be good for me. Now, some people it's awesome for. Like I hate working in spreadsheets, Excel and stuff like that. Some people love it. They love spreadsheet work. And so everyone's different. I know guys and I know men and women who practice the law and work 60 and 80 hours a week, and they love it. They love the fast pace. They love that. I just knew it wasn't for me though, So that's what made it a little easier in that transition, I think.
Stay tuned for part 2 of this episode with Bart Henderson. He shares so many more lessons learned. His energy is truly contagious. To connect with Bart and learn more, go to hendersonpromos.com or agoraguild.com. And don't forget, subscribe to the Today is the Day Changemakers YouTube channel or stream this podcast on all streaming platforms. We would love to hear from you and have you join our mailing list. Today is the Day Changemakers is now offering events for you to connect directly with our Changemaker guests. Go to todayisthedayliveit.com for more information. Have a great week, everyone.